Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay podcast, your weekly podcast where we get together to discuss all the news, rumors, and discussions going on in the video game world. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. In this week's episode, we're going to be diving through and talking about all of the announcements that happened last week between Summer Game Fest and the Xbox Showcase, as well as talking about PlayStation Plus Premium and Extra. Now that it's live, what do we think? Find out more in this week's episode. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, we've got a brand new backsplash, as you can see, with our link tree down below, where you can find all our socials, including I was gonna say LinkedIn. We are not on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. You can reach us at our email address, as well as find us wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube by searching for PixelPlay Podcast. With that being said, Adam, let's jump into it. How are you doing, sir? How is your LinkedIn looking?
My LinkedIn is looking very linked out based on the last week that we've had.
What do you mean by that?
If we really go through what we're about to do on this show, I think I might have more games downloaded from the PlayStation tiers, at least from the extra tier, than I think I have games that I would even consider playing day one after everything that we've seen in the last 7 days. It is insane just how underwhelmed I've been in the last 7 days, but I can't tell if that's actually underwhelming or me just being too damn old.
Well, I don't think it's you being too damn old, because I feel like there's always a cycle with video games, and that there's moments where you're not into it, and then moments where you're super into it. I find it ebbs and flows. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. And with that being said, let's just jump right into it. We're gonna go chronological here, and we're gonna start with Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest. I figure overall what we could do is we can kind of do a rating scale in terms of, and you can kind of give your criteria afterwards, but we'll use our classics rating game scale, 1 to 3 being sort of worst to okay but bad, and then 4 to 6 being okay but good, all the way up to amazing. So Adam, we can talk about that, and then some of the things that caught our attention, some of the things we're excited about, maybe some of the things that we're concerned about. So Adam, let's jump into it. Overall, what would you say of Summer Game Fest?
I wasted my entire stream on that. If it wasn't for the fact that there were people from my Final Fantasy community, by the way, shoutouts to the Final Fantasy VII Free Enterprise community for making the last 2 streams bearable.
Thanks for coming out, guys. We appreciate
Specifically this one, though, because I couldn't have been more bored, and I can't believe that I'm saying this. I miss E3 now. Not because of E3 itself, but because it feels like that when E3 exists, they at least try. Because it felt like in Summer Game Fest, no one was we don't have anything, so don't bother. So most of the show was all right, that's cool, I guess. But nothing I can tell. There were maybe 2 or 3 things I can tell you that I went, oh, that looks interesting, I'll look out for it. But everything else was not for me, not for me, not for me. And this is just all the sci-fi horrors that they had in this entire showcase, which was a theme, apparently. Literally, I'm pretty sure half of that entire presentation was sci-fi horror. I think everybody just saw the fact that there was a Dead Space remake and said, we got to do that. We all have to do that. And that's literally what most of it was. But
see, it's funny because I always wonder that, because I have a similar kind of thing to talk about with Xbox, but I always kind of wonder, because games do take time to make, so it can't just be a situation of 9 months ago they announced Dead Space and they jump on it and say, oh, let's make a Dead Space clone.
But isn't it so strange that so many games are like that right now after the first domino?
Well, I always just kind of wonder what sort of external cultural zeitgeist things kind of impact that, and what is going on, because it's typical, you see it with things you see it with things like rock music. Typically, if you have there's certain ebbs and flows of when good rock music comes out versus when it doesn't. Similar with TV shows, if you're having really bad economic times, that's typically when you get lighter comedies and stuff. And I'm just kind of curious what happens in the zeitgeist to cause certain themes. You remember in the early 2000s, zombies, everyone had zombies. And now it seems like we're going towards a trend for sci-fi horror or that kind of stuff. So I'm always curious what happens there. But overall, what games kind of stood out? What kind of games? What what stood out for you in this conference?
The only trailer that made me go, whoa, I'm now definitely in, was the Midnight Suns trailer. That basically confirmed that I'm going to play that. I mean, I already was going to in the first place because it's XCOM, but because they revealed that a lot of the villains have to do with like almost like brainwashed versions of heroes that you like, I love the idea of that. So instead of it just being like, oh, here's X enemy type, here's other enemy type, now it's like, no, here's really like evil Hulk that we made for this game. I'm like, oh, that's different. Oh, I'm very, very interested in how this goes. So now it really just comes into a case of, okay, I just need to get my hands on. I'm hoping at some point there's a demo just so I can see how the actual gameplay is, just to confirm that it's everything that I want. I think even if it's like a slight alteration to XCOM, I'm still in. But that trailer basically cemented it. If there was anything from the entire last 7 days that I went, I need to play this now, that's the only one. And then everything else happens to be a matter of, like, okay, I'll keep an eye out. This looks interesting.
Yeah. Anything else stand out to you besides Midnight Suns, or anything that like you saw that kind of made you second guess or be concerned?
In terms of concerned, I wouldn't say concerned. I think the one theme of SGF that really got to me was just genuinely thought they were going to have a one more moment after the Last of Us stuff because it felt so flat to me. And again, keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who isn't too into it, but even from the outside looking in, I thought about it, went, okay, oh, you're going to talk about the new multiplayer mode. No, it's just a piece of concept art. All right, well, that's not great, but at least we know you're working on it. Fine. Oh, you're going to talk about the HBO Max show. You got a trailer for it? No, it's just a screenshot. Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, what else you got? Oh, you're remaking the game for the second time, the original game for the second time now. All right.
My God, I'm interjecting here. I am so excited for that Last of Us.
I know you are. But everybody else that I talked to was like, no one asked for this. And all the things that we wanted you to show, the HBO Max show, the multiplayer mode, or anything else that they would have to do that's related to it, they had nothing. So they came in and said, okay, we're just reminding you that we're doing this stuff. But here's what you really want. You want to see the same thing you've probably already played twice in better fidelity. And I'm sure you're sitting there being like, yes, I do. But everybody else, and probably a good chunk of the community, I didn't actually go and check. I probably didn't want to, because the last time I looked at the Last of Us subreddit, it was in shambles after the first leak. So I've kind of stayed away from that place. But I'd be really interested to know like what a lot of people thought about that last like 15 minutes, because to me it dragged, and that's not even counting my bias. Like it legitimately just dragged, because it was nothing, and really awkward interviews before a trailer of a game that has been out for what, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, so I'm gonna agree with you there. I think the way that they handled it would have been better. I'm a huge Last of Us fan, but like you're telling us things that we already know. Like we know that there's a show coming. We know that there's a multiplayer coming. There's nothing new there. And like I was excited for, like, I'm gonna be honest, I have been very much like, I don't need a Last of Us remake. Last of Us is great. I'm totally fine with it. But when that trailer dropped, holy crap, I don't know what it is. Like,
it looks good.
It looks amazing, and I am so excited. How many times I'm going to buy The Last of Us? I don't know, but I can tell you it's at least going to be 4 times now, because I have now bought 4 copies of The Last of Us at some point. This will be my 4th copy. So, am I shamelessly addicted to Last of Us? Yes.
So what you're saying is you're going to get it on PC for the mods now, so you can have like a whole brand new
This is my Skyrim. If you can buy Skyrim a dozen times, I can buy The Last of Us as many times as it comes out too.
And I will judge you for that just as much as the Skyrim people. So there you go.
So here's my thing, because I'm super excited for The Last of Us remake, and I wasn't. This is not like, I have not been on board with this from the beginning, but like I am on board now. The thing that I always kind of said is, I've said The Last of Us Part 1 has a far better story than The Last of Us Part 2. I prefer that story versus the second one. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not getting on that whole, whatever train there it is, but I think generally The Last of Us Part 1 has a better story. However, The Last of Us Part 2 is leaps and bounds better in terms of gameplay compared to The Last of Us Part 1. The enemies feel more dynamic and feel more organic. They don't feel like just copy and paste people just going along a path. Like they genuinely feel like they are real people, and I genuinely feel like I have to outsmart them. the crouching, the proning, like it's a really cool way that game is designed, and the gameplay feels amazing. If you could take the story of The Last of Us Part 1 and put Last of Us Part 2 gameplay in there, that thing is going to be amazing, and that's what I'm hoping. I hope it's not just a, hey, we up-res. If they go through and they change the gameplay and they make it, more in line that way, I think it's going to be a huge improvement, and I would love to play it that way. Same with the adapt triggers, using a bow and stuff with the adapt triggers is going to be awesome. Using like the gun played, like that'll be awesome. I'm really excited for what it does. Could it have been presented better? I think the trailer was fine, but I think they needed to have more meat for the rest of The Last of Us.
Yeah, I don't think it was a great thing to put as your last thing either. But then again, given the entire lineup that they showed, I don't think there really was much else that could have been in that spot.
Yeah, I would say it's a toss-up between that and like Midnight Sun, but like once again, Midnight Sun is also
that's a lot more niche. So.
Midnight Sun, sorry. Yeah, so like I think The Last of Us is your big title. Like when you say The Last of Us, that gets people's attention. For me, sorry, was there anything else? I kind of jumped in on The Last of Us.
Oh no, that's fine. There were a couple other things. Like I want to get all the positives out first before I do any of the other memeing that I want to do, because there's a few things that I want to throw a couple of rocks at. I thought if you remember the one that was almost like a Truman Show kind of game, it was called American Arcadia.
Mm-hmm.
That one I thought looked extremely interesting, but that was another case of like, okay, like conceptually that looks really neat. So I'll see what that looks like. Because again, like it's the idea of you trying to escape this world that seems to have been like a 24/7 broadcast. So again, very much like the Truman Show for those who remember that film. So it's almost like a We Happy Few meeting that, and I thought that was a really interesting idea, so I like that. The other one that grabbed my attention was Neon White, which looked almost like what happens if you cross Mirror's Edge with like Super Hot with cards. And I thought that looked very interesting. Everything else, honestly, was either things that were not for me. Sorry, I should say also just more Shredder's Revenge, because they showed Casey Jones being in the game too, which...
Yeah,
I'll happily take. If I get to make sports puns the entire time I get to play the game, I'm in. So I'm good for that. Everything else was either things that I've either already played, things that were never really interesting to me, or just things that I looked at and went, I'm gonna need to see like actual reactions to it now before I even get interested to it.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, I'm with you. MNT, Shredder's Revenge, really cool. I'm still eager and interested in Gotham Knights to see what happens. I don't think this pushed the needle for me at all, but like it was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like it has my attention. I'm not guaranteed that I'm gonna buy it, but I'll see where this lands when it comes out. But yeah, I felt this one was kind of boring and kind of quiet.
You want to really talk about quiet though? Can we talk about what was probably the biggest waste of time in that thing, which was the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 trailer? Because I have two complaints. Number one was that whatever spot they picked was really boring. Because it's just you on a cargo ship, and there wasn't even really that crazy of a set piece. Like, oh, the things are moving a little bit. I'm like, yeah, that's nothing compared to what you play in a Call of Duty campaign. That is low-level action right there. The second part, and if any, like, I don't know how many people agree with me on this, as a gamer, watching whoever was playing that gameplay made me sick to my stomach, because no one plays like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know how sometimes they'll try a little too hard to see everything? Like, they'll, like, oh, here's this little thing. Oh, but we're going to stop and do this slowly. The fact that, like, this guy was refusing to shoot anything at times and just let himself get hit for a moment before finally doing anything and still missing most of his shots, I was being driven nuts watching this. Because I'm like, not only is this boring, but whoever's playing it sucks at this game.
Yep.
It's like 10 times worse. You're already not making me interested in the game because of the actual story and set piecing itself, but you're also making it look like it controls like ass, because whoever you got playing it doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Also, as a guy who used to work for an advertising company, how much fucking money did you waste on those stupid advertisements on top of the cargo boxes when that could have gone to, I don't know, Activision, paying your fucking employees better? But instead, you had to do the, oh, look at us. We have so much money that we can just rent a cargo barge and put some fucking random pieces of paper on top of these cargo boxes.
Yeah.
That probably made me the most angry, actually.
Yep. So overall, before I ask the next question, what would you give this presentation on that 1 to 6 scale?
Uh, it's almost a 1, but I got to give it a 2 because at least there was something I liked. But my God, I really could have done so much else with the time that I lost to that whole thing.
Yeah.
Just reading a article about everything summarized and just watching the trailers that I wanted to would have been so much better use of my time.
Agreed. I'm with you on the 2. So my question is like, is this something that we should continue, like this Summer Game Fest, like premiere night or whatever they're calling this?
I think there's still a reason to do it.
Kickoff, sorry.
I think the problem that we might have gotten into is that so much was delayed that I think things just weren't showing up. Because when we get to the Xbox showcase, I'll have a similar comment where I just feel like there wasn't a lot. Like, it's weird. I said it at the end of the Xbox stream. It's weird that I feel like after all of the stuff that I've seen the last couple of weeks, that the Sony State of Play, which is usually known for not having anything, actually felt like it had the most, which is not a good sign. If Jeff Keighley, who usually has like a good chunk of stuff, I mean, the Game Awards had some decent stuff to show last time. So there was that. And then for Summer Game Fest and Xbox Showcase to have me leaving with, I can count on one hand how many things I'm going to keep an eye on after those 2 showcases, that's not a good sign. And I don't know, like I said earlier, if that's because I'm a little more jaded now or if because genuinely there isn't a lot for me right now, which is very worrying.
See, for me, I'm of the opposite mind. I don't think we need Summer Game Fest kickoff or whatever. Like, it doesn't bring anything to the table. It doesn't do anything. I think maybe, the first year that E3 was canceled, sure, that makes sense. Companies were still figuring out how to do, events and stuff online, doing those virtual performances. But we are 2.5, almost 3 years out from like the pandemic starting. Like, companies have figured out how to do their own presentations. They've figured out how to generate an audience, get, people to watch their stream. Summer Game Fest kickoff does not start anything. Like, it doesn't. Summer Game Fest is such a weird thing in the beginning. Like, does it feel like Summer Game Fest? What's going on? Like, it feels like Jeff Keighley just kind of claimed, I claim this the summer of Game Fest. Like, he's George Costanza claiming the summer of George. Like, what does that even mean? Like, there's nothing, it doesn't associate to anything. And a lot of companies now are just like, well, why would I put my game next to, like, in the Summer Game Fest and compete with everyone else that is my competition? Whereas they can say, I'm just going to have my own show with an hour. So you're going to see bigger and bigger companies kind of bow out. And I don't know if, I think Jeff Keighley might be stretching himself a little bit thin. And once again, I like Jeff Keighley, but I think he has something with the Game Awards, right? There is a reason to watch the Game Awards. He is providing a service, a feature that companies can't do themselves. Any company can go in and say, hey, I'm going to build my own presentation. I'm going to do a 1-hour video. Here's some trailers. Here's some launches. Boom, I've got an audience. But they can't grab an audience by saying, hey, we're going to do an award show, because they're just going to award their own games. But if he says, hey, I'm giving away awards, do you want to put a trailer here? It's a great time. Nobody else is doing anything. There's like, you have the attention, you have the eyes. So if I was Jeff Keighley, I would drop the Summer Game Fest and just strictly focus on the Game Awards.
I think there's a few arguments I got to make, I guess, in defense of it. One, I need to see what an E3 proper year looks like to see if it's necessary anymore. Because I don't know if the problem with Summer Game Fest is because it's not a good showing or just because there wasn't enough content to make it worthwhile. So I don't know if getting rid of Summer Game Fest changes the problem inherently, which is that no one's bringing enough stuff at this juncture like they used to. So there's that. The other part of it is I think there's value to any show out there. I think the problem here is that Summer Game Fest feels like the E3 of the year of this time, and it's not doing that right now because there are other shows out there like the PC Gaming Show, the Future Game Show, the Guerrilla Collective that are other shows that we don't talk about being unnecessary because we know what they are. They're shows that have much smaller, lesser known stuff. So I think the problem isn't that Summer Game Fest doesn't need to be here. I think the problem is that either it's not meeting the expectations for what we're valuing it as supposedly being, or we are overvaluing what we think it is, and we should be toning that hype down because Summer Game Fest may just be this is like the B show that you see, like, there's going to be a couple of cool things here, but it's mostly going to be like the odd thing that you might catch on Steam or on Game Pass or something. Whereas, like, obviously the big Sony showcase or Xbox Showcase probably next year, I guess at this point, if they're doing the next 12 months then. I think those you can probably call the A shows, or if Nintendo does like a more like bigger direct, I think those you can look at A's. I think we now just start looking at Game Fest maybe as like a B show, as being a little bit more of like, there might be the odd cool thing here. There's going to be a lot of indie stuff in here. There's going to be a few like funny little guest things, except for that weird rock promo that was mostly about his energy drink, and which was weird, but I mean, they could have done worse. If there were other celebrities that would have done that, it would have been more cringy. But because it's The Rock and the pro wrestling fan in me was okay with it, it could have been worse. But yeah, I just think that maybe the show we're either overvaluing and expecting too much, or it's currently labeling itself as the big show and it's just not delivering. I think it's one or the other. I don't think it needs to go. I think just something needs to be changed, whether it's on their end or ours. Maybe even both.
You bring an interesting point, because it's a chicken and the egg scenario, in that you're saying maybe it's us having too big of expectations, or it's advertising itself as too big of a thing, and it just becomes that B tier show where, hey, we're gonna have some small indie stuff, we're gonna have some small like games, we're gonna have some small updates. But it's a vicious cycle, in the sense that if they do that and they say, hey, we're not a big show, we're not gonna have big reveals, then less people start watching it, and then when less people start watching, why would big companies put their big game announcements there? So then less people will watch, and then less people will come and show and put time and effort into that. And it's just a vicious loop that kind of causes it to cannibalize itself. And that, why would a company spend time and resources, because it does take time and resources to build these promos, why would they do it for a show that is not generating the audience that demands, or that requires, or that would be beneficial of putting that time into making a slice of the game? Then
I guess there's not really a solution, is there?
Well, it's like this is what I'm saying. This is why, as much as I don't want to say it, like, I'd love to have. I miss E3. I am a big E3 proponent, but this is what I'm saying with Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, is that it's not bringing anything to the table that a company like Ubisoft, a company like Sony, a company like Microsoft can't do on their own for better results for themselves, right? They're not sharing a stage. They have the full attention to themselves, right? Summer Game Fest doesn't offer anything to them that does that, whereas the Game Awards do, right?
Well, then the argument that I would make to you then is, what if next year when we have a proper E3, assuming we'd actually do this time, what happens if it's just the same? What happens if it's just, again, like a very underwhelming performance? Like, is that now indicative of the problem that, like I said, that maybe there just isn't the games anymore, that because now they're being separated because the companies are now doing their little mini presentations now, or is it something else entirely?
I mean, I don't think we'll ever see an E3. Sorry, I'll preface this with the asterisk. I don't think we're going to see a successful E3 like we used to see 5 years ago.
And that's why I'm kind of making the argument that I don't know if necessarily saying Summer Game Fest isn't necessary is not the right way to say it. I think maybe just Summer Game Fest isn't doing what we kind of want it to do. Because I think the big problem is that since there's been no E3, we're just expecting the bombshell. We're expecting like the big ass like Uncharted 4 drop. We're expecting the big Halo drop. We're expecting all this, and it's not coming. And I think we're all going, well, why are we here? At the end of the stream, I said, well, that was a waste of time. But I also didn't go in the direction of why are they doing this? I more went in the direction of like, God, like there's nothing. Like, what are we supposed to be excited about right now? It was more of indicative of, I think, of just the games itself rather than the show.
I think, and this is going to be my answer to your initial, what does E3 look like? And I think, and this could be Summer Game Fest. Maybe Jeff Keighley takes this idea. It's a free idea. Take it up. I don't care. If it was me, what I would do is drop the whole webcast. It's a online show, whatever. Drop that. Make it a gaming weekend. Making it like a Star Wars celebration. Make it like a PAX. Hey, we're doing a 3-day week, at this convention center. We've got a ton of developers, a ton of publishers who are coming. They're going to and maybe you have to pay these people. I don't know. Like, you charge an admission, and it becomes something for the fans, like a Gamescom, where you're like, hey, we've got all these awesome games that are coming in the next 12 months, next 6 months. We've got demos. We've got, I don't, for lack of a better term, we have commercials that you can watch. We do a Summer Game Fest kickoff, like opening night. Jeff Keighley comes on. Hey guys, here's a bunch of games that are coming out. You pack the stadium, you pack the arena, you pack the convention hall with a bunch of people. You do a live show with trailer announcements like you used to do for E3. and that kicks off the weekend where you can have tournaments, you have video game tournaments, you have like I said, demos, you have booths, you have like almost like a Comic-Con for video games. That's what I think E3 or Summer Game Fest or whatever needs to look like.
Yeah, and I think like going back to this current thing with Summer Game Fest, it's just I think that we're at the point now that none of these shows are going to be that size. So, you know, and it's been the same with State of Plays for a while. I've intentionally I've pushed down the expectations for all these things. Now, in the case of Summer Game Fest, even that went under the expectations that I had. And I'm pretty sure that for some people it was fine because they got the things they wanted. But like the way that I looked at it was pretty simple. Usually a good show will have a kick-ass start and a kick-ass end. And I know you like the end because you're a Last of Us guy. But this is what I saw. I saw them start off with a character reveal for a fighting game that is one of the most common characters. We saw them start off with Street Fighter 6 and Guile. That's not a big start. That is the most basic thing possible. Nothing to get excited about unless you're specifically in that community. And even then, you're probably going, well, yeah, it's Guile. Of course, Guile's going to be in it. So you start off with that. No bang to start. And I think it took a while until they even got going. I think I really didn't wake up until Midnight Suns. I think it took a while before I actually was like, oh shit, that looks good. And then to end it, you had what was basically showing you nothing except for a second remake and a really long, awkward interview with the director and a couple of voice actors that didn't need to be there. It almost would have been better served if they just said, look, just have a video package of Neil saying, hey, just want to give you guys updates and all the Last of Us stuff. Just to let you guys know, we are working on the multiplayer thing. We have nothing for you yet, but here's some concept art just so you can see, you know, the world that you're going to be in. Also, update on the HBO Max thing. We don't have a trailer for you guys yet, but here's a cool announcement. Troy Baker, and I forget, what's the voice actress name for Ellie?
Ashley Johnson?
Yes. It's like, we figured out a way to get them in there. They're going to have their own special roles, so stay tuned when that comes out to see if you can catch them in that. But we do have something for you. Here it is. Like, you don't even say what it is, just pop in, there's the remake trailer, and you end on that. But because it took so long to get to that point, like, unless you are, like, so deep into Last of Us that you were just just giddy, being like, cool, it's the stuff I like. If you're on the outside looking in, you're like, why did you spend so much time to basically say you had nothing and here's a trailer? Like, you could have done this so much faster. So, like, there was no good start and the end dragged so long that it just felt really, really bad. There was spots here and there that were cool, but, like, the show overall just had a massive pacing issue. But I think it was also indicative of the fact that they brought, like, the same genre of games for, like, 40% of it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Because don't get me wrong, Callisto Protocol looks fucking cool. There was another one that will look like if Five Nights at Freddy's met, like, the androids from, like, Aliens and stuff like that, and I'm blanking on what the name was. I'm just trying to scroll up to see what it was called. It was Routine. That looked like really, really cool, but I'm also not a horror guy, so I'm noping out of it. But they look cool, but they were also things that I wasn't going to be interested in, so it was hard to. So it was just a matter of, I think part of it was just that most of the stuff was not for me, but the stuff that was for me did shine, but so much else just didn't. And I think that's indicative not necessarily on Jeff and Summer Game Fest so much as I think just whatever's in production right now is either just not ready or it's just all into stuff that's really popular right now, and that's not what I'm into.
Fair enough. I'm of a different mind. I think Jeff is going to have a harder and harder time getting companies to, especially big companies, to
once E3 comes back 100%. Yeah, it's going to be not that much better. It's going to be worse.
I still stand by it. Make Summer Game Fest like a PAX and have an opening night with the premieres. That's what I would do. Kind of like Gamescom does. Basically, rip off Gamescom for North America. That's what we need. Yeah,
I think it would be really cool if instead of like you do that as a show during an E3, where it's more of like there's the odd trailer and you can still get like the odd cool thing, but like spend your load on like really, really cool stuff, and then like and cool stuff in terms of like the trailers you show. Like maybe in an hour you have like actually 5 or 6 trailers. Not much, but they're all like pretty impactful. And then everything else is like either the fun, like he did skits with like Muppets and stuff that were actually kind of funny. Like there was some cool stuff littered throughout it. You can have like some like musician that's did like music for a certain game that's really good right now, and you have like a little concert like that. you can have like these really cool interviews with like celebrities that kind of match up, or you have like, I don't know, like something else that fills up time instead of it being trailer, 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 but it's a lot of very niche stuff or a lot of indie stuff that not nearly as many people are going to attach to. Because for every American Arcadia in that show for me, there was a lot of stuff that I went, I don't care.
Yeah. Adam, let's pivot from one game show to, or game show. Let's pivot from one presentation to another. So this last week we also had the Xbox Showcase. Couple of the big announcements. I'll go first on this one. Actually, I'll leave it with you. What were 3 things that stood out to you?
Okay, do you mean stood out as good or stood out for bad?
I'll let you have dealer's choice. Let's start with your overall impressions. What was your overall impression of the game?
Slightly
game?
better, but not by much.
Okay. If you were to give this on our scale, what would you give? 1 to 6.
A very, very, very small 3 because I have to rate it better than SGF, but I almost want to give it a 2 because I felt basically the same.
Interesting.
Like, to me, the highlights were that, like, Rick and Morty meets Doom game. I think it was called High on Life. I thought that looked really unique. That looked really, really cool. I probably won't play all 3 of them, but the fact that Persona games are coming to both PC, Xbox, and even PS5 they're getting redone for as well, that makes me happy. I'll play Persona 3 because I haven't played that game in, like, oh god, like, almost a decade, so I'm okay with that. But, like, the other 2 I've played recently, so I probably won't touch them. But that's really cool for people that haven't had the chance to do it because they haven't owned a PlayStation. So I was really happy to see that. What else? In terms of good things, what was I think it was called Flintlock.
Oh yeah, Flintlock. Flintlock didn't do it. Flintlock to me looks like the Xbox equivalent of Forspoken.
Yeah, it was for the same thing too. Like, it looked like a really visually unique game. I think that's where the interest comes in.
But it looked empty. It looked kind of, to me, I very much had a Forspoken vibe to it, and that it felt.
Well, and that's the thing. I felt really good about Forspoken the first time I saw it, and then the longer it's gone on, I'll be like, oh, I'm worried now. So who knows? Maybe in about 6 months, I'll be like, I don't know about Flintlock now. Yeah. The only other good one I can think of was The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which looked like a really neat side-scrolling like platformer, like mixed with like Cthulhu elements. The way that again the visuals are very unique. I think the way that it was portrayed was also very good. I will say this though, I will have a lot of complaints about the showcase as well, but a lot of music choices in these trailers were pinpoint perfect. Yeah. There were a lot of great choices.
See, for me, I would overall give the show a 3. Or sorry, a 4. I'd give it a 4. Like, this is okay. This is acceptably okay. I think they did well. Like, the idea of, hey, these are going to be all the games coming out in the next 12 months. Great. There was lots of games there. They didn't spend a lot of time doing boring interviews or gimmicky things. It's just gameplay after gameplay after gameplay. The problem that I had with the showcase overall, and we're going to talk about some of the big ones. We're going to talk about Redfall. We're going to talk about Starfield. So we'll put a pin in those ones for now. But the problem I had with this is that this has like a Netflix style feel to it. And this is a problem I have with Game Pass, is that this felt like Netflix in that I was watching it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it seems cool. I'm sure I'd have fun with it, but nothing grabbed me. And this is how I feel about Netflix as well, is that, like, sure, there's a ton of shows, and by sheer, probability and statistics, yes, I'm going to enjoy or like something, but there's nothing here that I am excited about, right? I can't remember the last time I was excited for a Netflix show. In the same way with this, there was nothing, and I'm including Redfall and Starfield in this, there was nothing for me as someone with my PlayStation 5 back there. Nothing to me said I need to go out and buy an Xbox right now. And it's like, yeah, if I had it and if it was there, sure, I'd have fun, but I don't feel compelled to give my time or money to any of these games. And I mean, I'm going to talk about some of the ones that I thought were cool, but it didn't push the needle to move someone who's not an Xbox player to become an Xbox player. This felt more like quantity versus quality in terms of gameplay. Not to say that they're bad, but they just don't stand out as we have been in the next gen for a couple years now. We are now seeing the what we've been waiting for. It doesn't stand out like that.
Yeah, I think as my first showcase with an Xbox in my possession, I probably looked at it in a way of, okay, there's no way that none of these hit, so I know that some of the things that we saw are actually going to be really, really good. and
Mhm.
including some of the ones that I like genuinely think Redfall is going to be horrible. But there's always room for me to be wrong. Same with Starfield. We'll talk about those later. And all the smaller stuff, like there's a lot of stuff there that, if it goes day one on Game Pass, like it will, because it's not costing you a lot. I will continue to say that that's what sold me on the Xbox, was the fact that like you're just getting pummeled with stuff for a very low price.
Mhm.
And in my current financial situation, that is such an attractive thing.
Oh yeah.
And what this showcase did was at least tell me that there's going to be a lot of stuff. And that's not even including anything that's third party that isn't being shown here. There's still a lot of stuff to
Mhm.
be going. But in terms of like blowing me away personally, didn't do that in the same way that Summer Game Fest didn't do it. But at least
Mhm.
with this showcase, I'm left going, okay, at the very least, this doesn't cost me $79.99 anymore. This just costs me the X amount per month that I'm paying, and it's peanuts in comparison because I'm going to get at least something out of it.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned a couple. Let's do three games that kind of caught your attention, with the exception of Redfall and Starfield. Let's talk about three games. You mentioned a couple. Were there any others that talked? You mentioned High on Life and you mentioned Flintlock. Was there any others that caught your attention that were like, oh, that might be neat? That was kind of cool.
I'm really scrolling down here, and it's not looking great. Like I have a lot of things that I could say about every single one that I had something to say about in terms of
Hmm.
negatively. I thought As Dust Falls looked like it could have been interesting because it looks like a very Life is Strange looking game. But the
Hmm.
problem I have is the animation that they decided to go with. They
The
have
5 frames per second.
a mixture of like actual animation with stop it motion animation. And I said it on the stream, which by the way, both streams for Summer Game Fest and the Xbox Showcase are on our YouTube channel. So
Check
check
them out.
those out if you want to see me just be like in a state of misery for like a total of 4 hours. But like I said during this specific one, I was like, look, I actually think this game will be good. Like I think there's probably a good chance that this story is going to be very well told, but I can't get past the fact that this is so jarring to look at.
Hmm.
Because like you're
Ye-
hearing what looks like a played out live action scene, but it's being done in stop motion, like it's like a comic book, but not a comic book. It's not even like comic book like animation. It looks so weird, and I can't. My eyes would like the entire trailer. I was just like, I can't look at this. This is really hurting my brain right now because I feel like I should be seeing motion and I'm not.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. It's one of those ones like I'm interested, but I don't know. It's like it could be cool. I'd have to wait how the reviews are, and like it's got an uphill battle, but it could be cool.
But like I'm really trying to find other stuff, but like there really isn't. There's a lot of repeats. Like Grounded got more stuff. Sea of Thieves got more stuff. They showed that the guys who did Inside are
Here,
doing a new game, which
yeah,
looked
I'll give
interesting.
you my list. I'll give you my list of what's standing out to me. I mean, obviously, like Hollow Knight Silk Song, pretty cool. I played a little bit of Hollow Knight. I never finished it, but I really enjoyed what was there.
Oh, I was glad to see
Uh,
that. I forgot to mention that because that's a game that everybody's been asking about for a while now. Like it was
yeah,
basically like almost getting to Elden Ring proportions with people. Like, where's our next
yeah.
Hollow Knight? So I was glad to see that. I still haven't tried the original. I got it free on PlayStation Plus, but I
Play
haven't tried
Plus.
it yet.
It's a fun game. I think I was playing at the wrong time. It didn't quite jive with me, but I can see why people love it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
for ones that stood out to me, like a Plague Tale Requiem. I played the first Plague Tale. I liked it. The thing that I wasn't super thrilled by is that it's somewhat linear. It's more of a linear puzzle thing. Like there's not a lot of it's more of a walking sim almost. And I kind of was hoping that there'd be a little bit more combat and like
It looks like they're doing
open.
a little bit more. It looks like
Yeah,
they're doing a little bit more, but it's not like over the because I think they're trying to stick to the formula that worked the first time.
yeah, and that's my caveat with this is that if there's more combat and like more open, no, I don't want it to be an open world, but if there's more than just a linear path, similar to like a Tomb Raider, like a redone like the new trilogy of Tomb Raider, like that idea where you're in an open space, you have to get there some way. There's some like you have some options for. I'm not looking for a Far Cry-esque kill everything in your path, but to have more options than just sort of like the hey, we plan on you going to this part, do this, go here, do that. Like it's I hope it's a little bit less linear and it looks like that, but I also worry that it's going to feel too familiar in terms of walking with your brother, holding your hand, and like the light keeps the rats away and stuff. Like they're doing some neat stuff, and I'm thinking that it is going to be an improvement. So that kind of caught my attention because I did like A Plague Tale. The first one was good. Totally recommend it. If you haven't played it, go check it out.
Oh, Mr. Jin and Chris would be very happy to talk about how much he loves that game.
Well,
Otherwise, but like
bring him on. And
I don't think it's that big a deal that it's not doing that much to evolve, because I don't think we're looking at it like a AAA release either. So I think it's okay that they're sticking to a linear aspect. And it probably makes more sense for them anyway, because it kind of keeps the atmosphere the way that they want it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's also big things like they announced Overwatch 2, which I feel kind of like...
Is it really Overwatch 2, though?
Yeah.
You watch that trailer and, like, you know that they didn't do anything. You know that this could have been DLC. Like, every time I watch that trailer, I go, what a waste of time.
Yeah. Fallout 76 announcing the pit really almost gets me to play 76.
I wasn't an asshole on stream and was like, wait, who's playing 76? And then proceeded to start a trend that I did the rest of the show, where I started watching how many concurrent players there were, and there was like 5,000 on average or something. Like, it wasn't good. Yeah. And I'm like, why? Are you literally just trying to like justify how much money you've sunk into that game by just trying to release just a little bit more?
Yeah, the other one that stood out to me that looked kind of cool was the Erebin Shadow Legacy. Once again, I'm not saying this is like this is the one where you're like playing as like some third person. It's like a third person isometric, like you're an assassin in some sort of cyberpunk killing robots thing.
I needed to see more on that, because the way that they were showing it, I wasn't sure what it was going to be.
Once again, I'm not saying this is like amazing and like I am pumped for this, but it's like if I'm picking something, if I'm going through Netflix, these are the ones I'm putting on my list of like, yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll play this. Diablo 4 looked amazing, and I'm not a Diablo player, but that was kind of making like, maybe I should get into Diablo.
I refuse to give them any credit for Diablo with how much they've screwed it. Like, I said at the very end of it, I'm like, man, I can't wait to see what the discourse about this game is going to be, because people are not happy about Diablo recently.
It's really interesting that they decided to release this right with all the controversy that's been going on with Immortal.
Well, that's the thing, because like basically like the last few things they've done with Diablo have not been good. Like the last like redo they've done has been freaking terrible, which is Immortal. And then the last like new one they did in Diablo 3 was a nightmare because it didn't freaking work at the beginning. So like all I could think of, like, and I've never played Diablo personally. I think actually that's a lie. I think I might have played like a tiny bit of 3 because I got it free on PlayStation, if I'm not mistaken. But like, it's not my cup of tea. But like, even on the outside, I know just how much of a sore spot Diablo is to that community, because they've been really taken advantage of. From what I understand, the Diablo 2 redo that they did was pretty decent. Like, they didn't do too bad with that. But like, there's a lot of concern. The little bit that I have read of the discourse is a very, very mixed bag, which is not a good sign, even though, like you said, I thought it looked pretty decent from what they showed, but I couldn't help but have the part of my brain that goes, I know how bad Diablo has been treated the last like decade almost. So
yeah. Aura seems cool, Aura and Untold History, but that just looks like a ripoff of Civ. And
well, that's the thing, it's an RTS game. I couldn't comment too much about it.
Yeah,
we need to bring Liv back just for that, because she's our big Civ person. Actually, Chris is a big one too. Maybe we'll have those two do a massive schmoz fest about it.
What do you think of Minecraft Legends? Minecraft going like RTS action adventure, basically ripping off Brutal Legend.
No. I literally ended that trailer saying, I don't think I'm old, or I think I'm too old for the demographic they're looking for in this game.
Yeah, fair enough. We talked about Persona coming. Like, I'm not surprised by this. We talked about it in our prediction episode with Kevin. Reason, ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about predictions is because we did terrible.
Yeah, the only thing I got right was the layup, which was there's going to be a Forza game in it. I know. What a bold take that was.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? I got a meme about that thing too. Why the hell did they spend way too much time talking about the foliage? No offense. Like, I'm going to say this to Forza you gamers too. If you care about the trees in a racing game, I feel like you're playing the wrong game. Well, now, when they showed the reflections on the car, like the steel, like reflections from the ray tracing, that looked cool. But when they were like, we've improved the foliage, and the entire trailer just ended on water, I'm like, oh no, this is like Skyrim getting remastered. They're just saying, look how cool our water physics are. And I go, you're a game about cars.
Going like 100, like
you're not going to have time.
Like, Boom! Did you see that grass?
I know, right? Like
Whoa!
you're not gonna have time. Who cares? Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
exactly.
Like, are you driving with golf carts? Is that what you're gonna be doing to see the foliage?
Man, I'd love to have an option where you could drive some golf carts on like a whole track. That would be amazing. Let's talk about the big ones. Let's start with the smaller of the two, I would argue. Redfall. You said you weren't super. It didn't really jive with you.
The concept was always an interesting one to me, but every bit of footage that I've seen of it has not given me any credence to think it's going to be good. Because all I see with Redfall is I see a game that's trying way too hard to be cool than it's trying to be good.
I disagree. Like for me, it's Arcane, and I'm slowly becoming an Arcane fan. Weirdly, they do really fun gameplay, and like, is this my style game? No. Do I care about the whole vampire? And what's up with the whole demonic sort of monster motif that Xbox had? I feel like a lot of the games here were all about like fighting monsters, fighting demons, fighting Cthulhu-esque creatures. Was that just me?
Yeah, there was sort of a vibe to that too. But I also
Right?
think it's
Like,
because, again, we're in this age where all we want is post-apocalyptic, like, everything's dead, everything is... It feels like we're going back to, like, the goth phase that we were all probably in when we were in high school.
and I am gonna bust out my Linkin Park albums. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I was pretty numb after watching that showcase.
No, for me, like I thought it was kind of cool. Like it looked fun, it looked quick. Like it doesn't have that live service aspect. Like they've said, it's not gonna be like a live service game, which I'm really excited for.
I'm actually worried because now that I'm rewatching the trailer while we're putting this on the YouTube version, I saw that skin that they had that looked very much like a pay for its skin, and I got really worried. Same with people in my chat. They brought it up first, and then as soon as I caught it, I thought the exact same thing. I'm worried that because they have these wacky looking skins too, that there's going to be a little bit of that. Here's some currency you should probably spend on us. And again, that's where I think don't worry about that. Make the game good first, and then you can do that stuff.
Well, I mean, isn't that one of the things with like Game Pass that we're seeing more and more, that there's like microtransactions in Game Pass? Like, wasn't there some in like Forza Horizon?
Probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
So, I mean,
also
like,
a game, it's also a racing game where there's just a bunch of cars. Like, that's not surprising. Like, weapon skins like that, like, it looked like what a Fortnite weapon skin would look like, which got me worried because I know how that DLC can get.
Oh yeah, now you're like yeah, it's got the Fortnite look to it. Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. Is like, I feel like this game's trying too hard to be cool than it's trying to be like fun. Because the way that trailer felt, it felt like they were trying way too hard to be hip and cool. Like it felt like what happened when you have like a 55-year-old businessman or businesswoman trying to show like, oh, I understand all the lingo with the kids. That's fire.
Yeah. You got the Steve Buscemi, hello fellow kids, youth or whatever.
Yeah. Like it had that vibe to it. And honestly, like, the more I've seen of this game, the more that I'm not sure I actually like the way they're designing it. Because the vampires look too much like... They look like too glam, honestly. Like, I think that's my big problem, is it's trying to be, like, a little bit too glamorous, like, vampire-wise, rather than being more of a, like, I guess, badassery thing. Like, this game feels like it's supposed to be something that's more, like rugged and badass, and they're trying to be, like... I guess Fortnite-y. I guess that's like they're trying to do. They're even doing the Borderlands thing as I keep looking towards the trailer of having like the tiny robot companion that looks cute and does cool things.
Yeah.
It feels like they're like a carbon copy of a lot of different games, but just with they thought, okay, but this one's about vampires.
Yeah. You're kind of killing my buzz on this one. I think the more and more you talk about it, the more and more
I'm not like, trying to, but look.
I mean, I'm not. I don't have an Xbox. I don't have Game Pass. It doesn't matter to me. So whatever. Let's talk about the big one though. The big cherry on the cake, Starfield. Overall, just what did you think before we go into the nitty gritty? Like, did this sell you on Starfield or did this not? This was our first look at it. What, based on what you expected versus what you got, what is your thoughts?
I hated it.
You hated it.
I hated
it.
Okay.
I'm kind of average on it. Like, I don't love it, but I'm definitely I have some concerns, but I see some improvements. Why do you hate it?
It was another case of like the Modern Warfare gameplay thing where it felt like they made the game look intentionally slow and lifeless. The initial combat, like the on the ground combat, looks like every Bethesda game that I've played in the last 10 years that I cannot play because it's too boring and it's not fluent enough. The only thing I liked about that section of the trailer was the facial expressions that the NPCs would make when they talk to you. I thought that actually looked really
Really
nice. I actually felt
interesting.
really good with that. But like the worlds themselves, the game, the actual combat did not look good to me. The only thing that stood out was the space combat, and even that was like passable. I didn't get a sense of like being amazing space combat. So
Mhm.
like altogether the gameplay itself didn't do very much to me. And then on top of that, hearing them say there's like thousands of worlds, I immediately got triggered and went into Mass Effect 1 mode where there's just going to be all these planets that have nothing to do on them except like one
That
or two things.
that was my biggest concern. So for me, I'll go with what I liked first. I felt that it was an improvement from the mechanics of Fallout. In that, it does, like, especially interior of the buildings. I felt like the outside of the planet still looked very Bethesda-esque, and not in a good way. But I felt like the interiors when you were in this, like in the settlements, when you were in the colonies, like that looked really impressive. The gunplay looks like a huge improvement over the gameplay of the previous Fallout games. Like it kind of almost has a id Software machine game style feel to it. It's not Doom. It's not it's not Wolfenstein. I'm not saying it is, but it has a more fluid, a more controlled sense that you see in those games. So I really like the improvement from the gameplay perspective. Interior visuals I thought were good. The faces to me were still jarring. I didn't love the fact that like it cuts in and just like someone standing in front of you. It looks weird. Had like a little bit of an uncanny valley for me.
I'm okay with that
When they
stuff.
when
That
they
stuff
when
doesn't
they
bother me.
talk when
Sorry.
they talked about the settlement building, I immediately had like flashbacks to Preston being like, "There's a settlement that needs your help," and I'm like, "No, I don't want to help. I am against
Yeah.
I am against settlements, Bethesda. I do not trust you with like settlements. I am not building settlements. I don't want to be doing that." And then, like you said, with the like, I love building my own spaceship, but I don't know. Like, I look at the crafting and they're going through and they're collecting ore. Like, it has a very No Man's Sky esque
Well, I mean, they
survival.
clearly showed them mining pieces of iron off the thing. Like they're really like it really feels like No Man's Sky with like better graphics.
Yeah. So for me, I was like, that doesn't appeal to me, and I share that sentiment with you when they're like, "Hey, there are thousands of planets or hundreds of planets." I don't remember what they said, but it's like, what does that mean? Like, are those procedurally generated? In which case, like, oh great, like here's a planet with, and you can explore every part of it. So either one, the planets are going to be tiny, or two, there's going to be a lot of empty space in here, and it'll probably be one of those things where there's a Goldilocks, like they talked about that Goldilocks zone, like, hey, this is where people can live, and then there's not places, and it's gonna be okay. So basically, you have the golden path in the Goldilocks zone, and then you can go fart around and do nothing in the outside planets. And it's like, well, why? What? You spent the time and energy building this for no purpose other than just to say it's there if you want to go explore. There's nothing to find, but it's there.
Did you play the Outer Worlds?
I did for a bit. I started. I like went halfway through the campaign, and then I was just kind of like, I don't care anymore.
So you know
I'm out.
the initial world where there's obviously the major town and then there's just a bunch of stuff around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we're gonna get like that, but like 100 times worse.
Yeah.
And that's where my concern is because I mean, I I not again my bias is gonna show here because I haven't had a good thing to say about Bethesda for a while now. Especially when it comes to this specific division that Todd Howard runs. Anytime I heard Todd Howard speak, I just couldn't not hear, I'm lying, I'm full of shit, I'm lying, because that's what it's been with him recently. Anything that's come
I
out of
was
his
gonna
mouth
say
has
that.
not been very good.
Todd Howard, like once again, I can tell he's passionate. He loves what he does. Like he does some cool stuff. Great, but Todd Howard is the Peter Molyneux of gaming today, and like maybe it's enthusiasm, maybe things don't go the way that he wants them to, or like he has ideas and they don't quite land. But I'm not gonna call him a liar, but he has a propensity that like what he says is gonna come versus like what we get delivered doesn't always quite match up, and so I have some hesitancy in terms of like when he's talking about what this is and what it's gonna be. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and again, like some of the problems that I keep seeing, like the fact that they were showing the character creator, it's like, dude, no one cares. You're gonna put on a space helmet for the rest of the game. Like it doesn't mean anything. Why do you have to show me how like look at all the cool hairstyles you can put on your character? I'm like, yeah, they're gonna have a fucking helmet on and they're not gonna talk at any point in this game. So why do I care? Like it doesn't
well,
mean that much.
the character creation, one of the things I saw is that they had like a traits feature, and I thought that was like interesting from a role play perspective.
Yeah, you could have focused on that, but the fact that they were like, well, look at all the weird customizations, like, you know, this doesn't matter because it's you're gonna spend like way too much time on it before you realize, oh, I'm literally not going to be looking at my character because it's not third person most of the time.
Well, that's interesting because I did feel like the third person perspective was a huge improvement compared to the ones that we've typically had with Fallout and
Yeah, I
Elder
think you'd
Scrolls.
still lean to first person just because, again, the combat's going to be more suited for it.
Hmm. So,
Like, man, when we went into that trailer, I said from the very beginning, like, man, please let me like this game because I know everything that's telling me that it's going to be bad is in my head. And the longer the trailer went, the more that I went, oh my God, not only am I right, I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a massive down for people. And then the space combat went, and I'm like, okay, maybe that can save a little bit. But it's then again, they went right back to there's going to be like thousands of things to do. I'm like, oh, nope. This is just not going to work. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it's going to be like a 4 out of 10 game. I'm not saying that, folks. But like everything that I'm seeing now as somebody who has played games for really 25 good years and having a pretty good sense of like what seems to work and what doesn't, this feels like a game that is trying to be way too ambitious and is going to severely underdeliver, or it's going to deliver in the main quest, but everything else outside of it is going to have pointlessness to it. This seems like a game that if you play the 10 to 15 hours you're supposed to, you might get a good experience, but the second you try to deviate, you're going to feel like it's burning you out. That's my worry.
I think this is going to be like, this is going to be one of those games that's going to hit that like 8 out of 10. It's going to have people who love it, people who aren't going to love it, but it's not going to be I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those that it may be biting off more than they can chew. It does a little bit too much. And it may not be focused on us. The other thing I felt with this, and you can tell me if it's just me, but like, I feel like Bethesda has a tendency of just making worlds look very drab, and it makes sense from a perspective of Fallout. Like, you know, it's a bland, gross world, but like, I remember Skyrim, like, generally being like, you know, a bit grayish, and this one has like a brownish, grayish feel to it, and I'd kind of like to see Bethesda get a little bit more vibrant.
I guess that's what Doom is. I guess that's
Weirdly,
what
right?
Redfall was supposed to be. And
Yeah.
yet I'm looking at that being like, okay, hit the reset button. You went too far. It really is like that meme. It's like more color. And then you hit the button, you go, wait, shit, go back. Like that's what honestly what Redfall feels. Again, like maybe it's just because I'm not their market right now. But I feel like Bethesda's in this weird zone where I don't think they know what they want. And I don't think they know what they are. Because it feels like everybody's looking at them from Fallout 3 and Skyrim, or even Fallout New Vegas and Skyrim, even though that's more Obsidian. But like people are looking at those games, and Bethesda's like, I guess, trying to recapture that. And it seems like they're almost grasping at straws. I feel less like they're trying to make the games that they want to make and more the games that they think will get them the most money. And in most cases, you'll probably make a good profit, but you're not going to do what, say, an Elden Ring is doing right now, where it's just making money hand over fist because the love was there. But again, we could both be wrong in our assumptions on both Redfall and Starfield. They might end up being like again, like I thought Deathloop was going to be horrible, and it was Game of the Year quality. So, and I've still yet to play it, so I have yet to confirm it, but obviously, you loved it a lot. I mean, a lot of people must have loved it because it got a Game of the Year nominee. So, again, this could be another case where I'm wrong. And again, I always love being incorrect when I say a game is bad. I would much rather be wrong about saying a game looks bad than a game looks good at all times. But again, like I said, I've been around the block enough to see the signs that I'm seeing here, and I don't like the direction that I see.
Yeah. Let's pivot from Xbox and let's talk PlayStation. So the new PlayStation Premium and Extra have just been released. Adam, you've actually gotten into this. Mine, ironically, my PlayStation Plus membership expired 2 days before this released, and I'm gonna be honest, I have a gift certificate, or I have like a code over there that I could submit if I want to. I'm not compelled to do so. So let's talk about this. Oh, what are your thoughts on the lineup now that we have the full gaming list of PlayStation Plus, Premium, and Extra? what do you think overall of the list? What do you think of the value? What do you think generally of this service?
If you are here because of PlayStation Now getting that upgrade to premium, you're not that upset. If you buy a day one for the full price that you're getting it for, you are pissed. Premium is a fucking abomination. Extra is actually pretty decent, especially if if you haven't played a lot of games from that specific console. I think if you come in like not having owned a PlayStation and you get extra, you have a year's worth of stuff there. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain. It's like, well, there's not a lot here that I don't already own. I'm sorry, I hate that reason. Like, that's your fucking problem, honestly.
I'm going to disagree with you right there. I'm going to disagree with you because...
Like, well, okay, well, my question then is, what do they put on then?
So, I think the issue, like, to be said, is, like, who is this for, right? You are asking for a premium price, and who is it that you're trying to... Which audience are you trying to speak to? Are you trying to talk to the PlayStation Plus fan who has been with you since day one of PlayStation, or even hell, the initial days of PlayStation 4 when you started charging to play online? Because they have a huge catalog, right? And now you're asking for a premium price for this service, and I don't get those. Like, I get games that I already have. I think the problem here is, like, I'm looking at this and there's a lot of stuff that I don't care to play. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is kind of garbage. Like, I'm looking here and, like, I saw, where the heck is it? There's like Disney's Cars, Mater's like drive through here. Like, let me.
Yeah, are you looking through the PS3 list though? Is that really a fair comparison? Like, look through the PS3 library on its own, or the PS everything that's like a PS5 specific library. There's a decent amount of stuff there. Like,
I'm looking and, like, there is decent stuff there, but, like, how much of this stuff has been given away in PlayStation Plus? How much of this has been given away? Like, you know, can I get this for dirt cheap at anywhere else? Like, what's the incentive here? Yes, there's stuff here. I think for me, I'm looking at this system and I'm like, cool, it's a cool service, but it is drastically overpriced because there's not a lot there that, like, either I haven't played, is really old, or, like, either I have no interest in playing, you know, isn't really good, or I've already played it, right? There's not a lot here that's, like, making me say, I need to go out and get it. Like, games I'm looking at, I'm like, it's just cheaper for me to go and buy it at GameStop.
I'm really trying hard not to be a biased Sony boy here, because, I mean, both of us are. You're clearly in the I don't like this camp. I'm trying to look this as objectively as possible, and I'm going to keep asking this question. What the fuck do you put in it then? Because, like, everybody's saying, like, oh, there's not that much in here. But what else is there? Like, you're basically expecting Forbidden West to be in there. You're expecting Ragnarok to be day one. We found out Stray is going to be day one. We have confirmation that day ones are going to happen.
Yep.
But, like, at this current time, what can go on there? There's already the PlayStation Plus collection, so that exists. So you can't take all of that stuff, which is a pretty good library. You can't take all your brand new spanking, like, killers like Horizon, because that's a really stupid idea if you're Sony and you don't have nearly as much money to burn as Microsoft. I think, honestly, what all the customers that are bitching about it want is they just want PlayStation Plus Extra to be what they're paying for in Essential. To which I go, that's fine, but as a business, they would never do that. So the thing that I'm going to tell people is, look, this is your choice now. You either just stick with what you have, or you pay the premium to get something you didn't have before. And if you don't like what's not there before, you don't have to do anything else. So the fact that I see people saying it's an abomination, premium is. I will not argue premium, because that classic collection is garbage. If you don't count the PS3 library, which is not retro, I don't care what people say. I've seen people try to argue that the library is fine because there's so much of it. No, there isn't. It's PS3 and a lot of remasters. That doesn't count, and you know that. The PS2 and PS1 library is barren. It is fucking barren. It's like 30 games. It is nothing. I cannot defend that. I will not defend that. But the extra tier, it drives me mental that people are... It's the same thing every month with Plus, where they go, oh, these free games suck. No, they don't. They just aren't things you want. They aren't the things on your wish list. What people wanted was their wish list for free. That's not what they got, and they're mad. I looked at this and went, there's 3 games immediately I will play. I got Returnal, Demon's Souls, and Death Stranding. Those were immediates. There are a bunch of games on there that I will probably try down the line when I have a dead period. It's the same with Game Pass, and people don't mistake this. This is Game Pass. It is a couple cool things and then a bunch of filler, and you just try stuff. That's what Extra is going to be, and you're just mad because it launched with not nearly the same kind of games that you wanted. Like, I'm really animated about this because I've seen a lot of that discourse, and it's really driving me nuts because I feel like people were expecting something that I said 1,000 times on this show that was not going to happen. And I think we all knew it was not going to happen, and yet we're still acting like we've been personally slighted.
No, I don't feel I'm personally slighted at all.
Not you. Again, like, I am talking about, you know, the types of people that are just a little bit too emotional about it. I say as I'm being very upset about it, but
entitled people on the internet, are we on the same internet?
But even in what you're arguing, again, like, I'm going to ask the same question. Like, what would you want them to do then? Like, I'll just even open the floor to you. Like, what would have you wanted different than what's here?
Okay, so two ways I would have handled this. One, keep it as it is. It's totally fine. I think for what they're asking for this service is overpriced, right? It's
Isn't it like $4, $4 or $5 extra?
Isn't it like?
Let me look it up just to see.
I think it's like 100. Like it's like 100 or 100. Like $100 a year, isn't it?
Okay, so it's an extra $5 US, which is probably for us more like 6 or 7. But like, in all honesty, like, especially as we see in the future. Are you talking a month or a year?
I'm
just talking per month.
Yeah, so that's still
like, that's how my brain's just operating, right?
It's an extra $60 a year, though.
Yeah, but I'm paying essentially half of Essential to get this library of games that I now don't have to pay for. That seems like a good deal to me because now all of a sudden, if I save, let's say on average, every time I play one of these games, $20-$30, that adds up. Like, if I use one game off of that service every month, I've paid for extra.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at it and I'm like, I haven't bought it yet. And so is there anything here that drives me that I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to play this versus just going and buying it off of like Facebook Marketplace, GameStop, wherever. Like, a lot of these games, like, I'm looking at them and like, I'm not saying I have great taste in all these, but like Foreclosure's one that I'm like, okay, that was one I've been eyeing for a while. Could I get that? Yeah, probably. Or I could just go buy it for $20 from GameStop and I'm still ahead. I'm looking here, like...
Well, we made the argument a while because we were talking about how, like, Returnal, we thought the price was never going to go down. Like, at best, we were seeing it for, like, what, 40, 50? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you pay an extra, what, like $7 that month, and now you have Returnal. So, like, that's how I'm looking at it. Like, whenever I see people, like, trying to say, like, oh, it's not value, I'm like, dude, you get one game off of it, and you've paid for it. Like, you've paid for it with that month. As long as you download one game, you pretty much get your value unless like it gets put on free the next month, in which case you feel bad.
I'd say probably you need to spend 2 minimum to break even.
Depends on the game.
3.
I guess it varies. Like if you get an indie game, it's different. But like if I'm talking like, let's say Stray goes up there, that game probably would have been like $40. So instead of paying $40, you're paying at most 10. But it's not 10 for sure.
I'd say you need to have 3 games, maybe 3 games, give or take, a year played to benefit from this. And are there games on here that I play for? Sure, absolutely. But there's nothing here that's driving me that like, hey, I want to go buy a year membership. I want to go buy a 3-month membership. Well,
I'll make the argument that neither is Game Pass a lot of the time because a lot of the time I'll look at what the Game Pass list and go, meh, there's nothing really there. Maybe I'll peek at something, but like.
So for me, I'd either I would like bring down the price so it's like there's not a lot here that I want, but there's enough that hey, I'm still gonna go buy my games out of the like wherever I buy games, but I also have the option that it like I'm gonna pay for this as an additional just so I have it. But right now it's like is this how I want to consume my games now? And the answer is no, I don't want to rely on a service.
Well, you are also the physical guy still.
I am a physical guy too, and I will like I will give it to them, but like for me, I look at it and like the fact that a lot of these games, especially like the classics, have now been taken off of the PlayStation Store and I now need to buy it for this service is crap. Which leads me to the second way I would have done this, is that I would have said, hey, forget this whole tier crap thing because it is annoying and confusing as hell. We are going to have a service where you pay whatever the base minimum is for PlayStation Plus as is. We keep PlayStation Plus as is. And then we're going to have a system where every console like will do a PS3, a PS2 and PS1 kind of combination, like make it tier so it's by category, right? So I could go in and they kind of done it a little bit here where it's like I got into PlayStation at the PS3 era. So I have a lot of the PS3 and PS4 games that I want. What I don't have is a lot of PS2 and PS1 experiences. I'd love to go play things like Siphon Filter or Metal Gear Solid and stuff. Those are games I haven't played. So for me, I might go out and I might purchase to go play, those PS1 and PS2 games. But I don't want to have to then purchase PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Plus Extra, and then play for PlayStation Plus Premium. If they had done a thing where, hey, here's our PS3 catalog, here's our PS4 catalog, here's our classics catalog. You have to buy the initial PlayStation Plus to get into the service, and then you can add on these consoles as a tier level. That would have been cool too, because then
but what are you charging for them?
I don't know, $20, maybe even $10 on top of the PlayStation Plus.
Well, but premiums, like, it's $9.99 for Essential. It's $17.99 for the premium. That's US. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the difference then between what you're suggesting?
So my suggestion is if it was me, I would skip like the extra tier. The extra tier does not appeal to me at all. But what appeals to me is the benefits and the services in the premium. So I'd like to get the premium without the extra abilities. So if they had done more of an a la carte thing where it's like, hey, which generation do you want to add to your PlayStation Plus? You can add all of them, or you can add some of them. And that would have been a cool way of doing it. You pay that initial $60 to get in, and then you can add on top of it as a la carte. But the stacking way that they do it is really dumb.
I feel like that complicates it, honestly, because it's really as simple as saying, if you want just what you already, like, they made it pretty simple in my opinion. It was, if you want what you already have, do nothing. You're good. If you want to have what's basically our equivalent to Game Pass, get extra. If you want the old school retro stuff, you get premium. That's it. Like, to me, and by the way, I looked at the game trials. It's kind of hilarious. It's not that great yet. I mean, Horizon's in there. That's cool. But, like, again, it's a gimmick. You're getting premium because of the retro games. Let's not fool ourselves.
Honestly, the trials should have been it should have become a PlayStation Extra benefit.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that, because it's not that much more between extra and premium. I could probably get behind that.
Yeah. So for me, it's just, I look at this and there's nothing on here that is it a bad list? No, there's a shit ton of games there. Like, if there's something that appeals to you, if you are new to the PlayStation family, this is a great deal to go back and play those old games. But for an appeal to classic, the hardcore PlayStation fan base, this doesn't do it for them. You are appealing to the people who are new to the family, who are new to this console. It's good for them, but your hardcore fans, who would be the ones who purchase this, are going to be left saying, I already have these games, I've played these games, this isn't for me. Is it a bad service? No, I don't think so, but it is from someone who is a hardcore PlayStation fan whose PlayStation Plus membership has now lapsed. It doesn't appeal to me that I feel like I need to go out, and none of these tiers makes it feel like I need to go out and get it.
So I'll disagree, and here's my last point on this. So I don't think it's the fact that there's no games that nobody wants there. I think it's the fact that if you compare what Xbox does with Game Pass compared to what Sony is now doing with these tiers, there is a massive difference between the two. And the difference is Sony's actually given away a lot of good stuff in its monthly freebies. Whereas you look at Xbox's lists and they're almost always nothing. So I think what a massive problem is going in, if you are a long tenured PlayStation gamer, you've been spoiled with a lot of the free games, or you've bought mostly the ones that you want.
Yeah, we're going to put free with the asterisk or whatever.
But let's be honest here. Like, most of the people that are complaining that there's nothing there, that's because you bought the ones you wanted. So exactly. Like, stop acting like there's anything else for them to put on there. Like, there really probably isn't that much. Like, your wish list is probably pretty small. So like, the whole point, and I've said this about Game Pass too, the big thing about extra that a lot of people need to be looking at is not the highlights. It's all the things that you never would have tried. It's opening yourself up to other experiences. It's opening yourself up to games you normally wouldn't have spent 40, 30, even sometimes $20 on. But now it doesn't cost you anything more than a subscription service that you're probably going to get, like in my case, because I really wanted to play Demon's Souls, but I couldn't be bothered to pay more than $20 for a game that I know is going to kick my ass.
Now, asterisk right there. You're not paying for this in that way. You did the whole PlayStation Now. You got a loophole. Right?
Yeah, but I also got it at a cheaper price than paying the monthly fee.
No, I'm putting the asterisk there that, like, you're not paying the PlayStation Extra.
Well, price. I mean, technically I am actually. If I'm playing the PlayStation Now, I'm basically probably spending what the extra is for extra because I'm getting a cheaper deal on premium. And it's more I'm getting screwed on premium now because there's nothing in it.
Yeah. So
but I'm still like, unless the service in the next, like, I think I'm up in April. So, like, if they don't add a lot over the course of this time period, then, I mean, I have plenty of time to see. So, at the way that it stands, like, if this is the list they're going to have going forward, and if they slowly are still adding, like, some decently, like, quality stuff, including, like, experiences that I would never try otherwise. It's going to be like Game Pass. I'll stick with it because once in a blue moon, I'm going to try something I normally don't, like, say, Crosscode, which for those who have never heard of it, look it up on YouTube, and you should, because it's the kind of thing that I just said, oh, that looks really cool. What's this game about? And turns out here's this PC game I never would have tried, and I loved it. That's the thing that about Extra and Game Pass that I will keep sticking with for. It's not necessarily about the big blockbuster that they land on there, although don't get me wrong, if, like, say, with Xbox Game Pass, if Starfield goes on there, I'll be happy to try without having to spend full price. Or in the case of, say, Sony, in the like with Returnal and Demon Souls and other things, you know, it's great that I have this opportunity. But I think a lot of it just comes down to it's a way for not that much of an extra cost to get a chance to take a crack at things without having to worry about you spending $40 on something that ended up not being your cup of tea. Because I've done that before. You know, I've thought, oh, like, great example, No Man's Sky. I thought No Man's Sky would be great for me. And I spent full price on it. And I wish I hadn't. And even nowadays, it probably would be close to its value if I got it then in the way that it is now. But, like, if I'd known what I'd known, I would have spent no more than 30 on it. Now, there are games out there that I can get without worrying about the $40 price tag on it and go, look, if this is bad or not my thing, whatever, it cost me the extra $5-7 this month to try it. And now I can go try something else that I'll probably eventually get to liking. So to me, like, the whole thing about it not being valued, I think, is probably an early reaction to just not seeing a bunch of stuff on the list that makes you go, I need to play that. I think it's more of a case of, like, it's an early thing. So people need to be a little bit more patient of what's going to come out soon. I mean, again, the Stray day one release makes me a lot more, like, excited to see what they do with it going forward. But I think it's also a matter too of, like I said, PlayStation Plus has been very, very good, despite what a lot of people online keep saying every month about it, in giving you some pretty good quality titles for free every month. And I say, again, free with the asterisk. But, like, a lot of your library has already been taken by a lot of these games. So when you look at that initial extra library, you might be put off because a lot of it are games that you already wanted to play, which is fine. That's going to be the reality of things. In the same way that we just talked about these showcases, that there were things that, you know, wasn't our cup of tea, and the couple of things that we like were cool. I think it's going to be the same with Extra as a growing pain. It's people looking at the initial list and going, okay, that's something I wanted to, that's something I wanted to. I don't know if I care about the rest of this. Give it a month, try a few of these things, and all of a sudden you're going to come back and be like, man, I never would have tried X, but I did because I saw that, I looked at the trailer of it, looked kind of neat. It's my fucking favorite game this year. Like, that's going to happen with a lot of people, and I think they're just in that early adoption of, well, it doesn't have X game that I really, really want, so I'm not happy.
Yeah, for me, I disagree. Like I said, I think, one, who's the system for it, and I think the price comes down to, like, the thing comes down to the catalog versus the price. And yet, you're totally right. This is not for necessarily the big AAA games, unless you've not been here before, in which case it's a great value. But the problem is that, like, these are for games that you may not have played, and that's fine. That's totally a valuable system. But it's the price that you're having for just that option to play games that you've already passed on for whatever reason. And so, like, there's still a cost to that, and I think the cost is too high, especially when you look at, you know, the comparison that's sitting just across on the other side of the fence, which is Game Pass, which like, if I see, is like anywhere from $10 to $15 a month. So, like, for the same price,
Ultimate, I think it's $17 for us, so Ultimate, it's probably close.
I'm looking at Ultimate right now. I'm looking at the American price, so it's like $15 a month. So it works out to about $179.
So basically, we're comparing Extra to Ultimate, essentially, in terms of price value.
Or even like I just look at Game Pass for console is $10 a month, and I'm getting brand new games, right?
Yeah,
I'm getting the old, but I'm also getting brand new games. And Sony's coming out and saying, yeah, we're going to charge you as much as Game Pass, but you're getting the older games that you either haven't played, but you can discover some gems. And I think, for me, it's not necessarily like, oh, this list is bad and you shouldn't do it. It's just like, this doesn't cater to your hardcore audience. It caters to your new audience. And then when you have the Game Pass equivalent, if I'm looking at it, I'm going to say, I'll go with Xbox because it's a better value if I'm looking at the two. That's just my opinion.
All right, we'll go buy your Series X then, you Xbox fanboy, eh?
I am still staying with my PlayStation. I'm just saying, you haven't convinced me, Sony. You haven't convinced your hardcore fanboy coming to you from his PlayStation basement.
Well, then I guess the argument we're making is that, okay, extra has to be $10 a month. To which I go, good luck convincing businessmen that that's what they need to do when they don't have the fuck you money that Microsoft has.
I'm just saying, like, maybe, like, I'm not
Like,
I don't
if
know
the
what
argument
this,
that is maybe not fair value, I can't heads or tails it, because like
yeah,
I
it's,
as
it's a
far as I'm
person.
concerned, either of these are a good deal, because as long as you play like one game this month, you're saving money.
Mhm.
As long as you use it once in the entire month, you're saving money. That's how I look at
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. It's two different
as
ways.
long as
Like,
they're updating it, as long as they're not doing like say like a PS2 on PS4 thing where they do it for like a couple of months and then stop, then we have a problem. If we come back in the fall and we talk about how like they've added like 10 games the last like 3 or 4 months on extra, there'll be a much different conversation on this show from my end. I will be furious.
I mean, and I'm not going to open this can of worms, but just like a closing thought, this is just for self-reflection. We're not going to go into it. Maybe there's an argument to be said that PlayStation shouldn't even have gone down this route. And we're going to leave it like at that.
I'll go down that route. They
Okay.
shouldn't have, because there was never anything they could do that would please the audience they were trying to appease. Everybody complained constantly. They had no answer to Game Pass. There was nothing they could have done to even it out, because everybody in this room and watching the show and out there in the rest of the gamer community knows Sony never would have done the exact same thing. They would not have charged you $9.99 or $10.99 or whatever it would have been to match Game Pass and put Horizon day one. Everybody knows that wouldn't have happened. So it was never going to be as good as Game Pass. All we could hope for was a decent answer for it. I think they've done it today. I don't know if they've done it 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now. I think as it stands, it's fine. It's a matter of, okay, now show me you're going to keep doing this. Because if it's good now and then they don't add anything, then it's a gigantic waste of time. And I still will say premium is not worth anybody's money. Stay away from premium unless you did the PlayStation Now like little cheatsy doodle that got you a better price. But like day one, do not touch premium. And in fact, I don't even know if I'll be saying touch premium for 6 months. I don't know what's happening over there, because they wasted everybody's time with it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like being a boxer going into the octagon. Sure, you can, but if you're going for a boxing match in the octagon, maybe you just shouldn't have gone in there in the first place. Anyways,
I'm okay with not getting punched in the face. That sounds like a good plan.
yeah. Anyways, Adam, let's wrap up the show because this has been a long one so far. Let's finish off with what we always, how we always wrap up the show, with a round of trophy stumpers. So as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I give Adam 10 trophies, and he has to guess it as soon as possible. He gets 2 tries, and we see how fast he can get it done. You ready to go, sir?
Yes.
You got it last time, right?
I did. I got the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah. Let's see if you can get this one. So trophy number 1. Solid gold baby.
Okay.
Flawless groove.
All right.
Hello Cleveland.
Well, it's not Spinal Tap.
Million Point Club.
All right.
And You Killed the Radio Star.
Ooh, that's a good reference.
First 5 trophies: Solid Gold Baby, Flawless Groove, Hello Cleveland, Million Point Club, and You Killed the Radio Star. Feel free to jump in at any time when you have a guess.
I honestly don't know if I have anything to start with.
All right, let's keep going. Open Road. Worldwide Sensation.
Mm-hmm.
The Final Countdown.
Oh, what use this? Oh, I recognize that achievement. Okay, what's the last 2?
Lord of the Strings.
Mm-hmm.
And Beat It.
Wow.
So once again, trophy lists are Solid Gold Baby, Flawless Groove, Hello Cleveland, Million Point Club, You Killed the Radio Star, Open Road, Worldwide Sensation, The Final Countdown, Lord of the Strings, and Beat It.
Hmm.
Where's your head at? Where are you thinking?
The one that I know Final Countdown is an achievement to like some sort of mission. I'm just trying to remember what game that was. That's hard. Like if I can figure out that one, because the other ones like I'm trying to connect to as well, and I'm not coming up with anything on this one. Oh man.
You need the list again?
No, I have a pretty good like. There's a few that I'm trying to use as my thing, like the you killed the radio star stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what game that would apply to now.
Are there like themes? Are there like titles or anything that kind of pop out?
Well, like initially it sounds like something Saints Row would do, but Saints Row wouldn't go that meta on titles like that, so I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I mean, I'll make my first guess. Let's just say Saints Row 3 the remaster, but I know it's not that.
No, it is not. So once again, Solid Gold Baby, Flawless Groove, Hello Cleveland, Million Point Club, You Killed the Radio Star, Open Road, Worldwide Sensation, The Final Countdown, Lord of the Strings, and Beat It.
This is gonna drive me crazy. Like even things like Lord of the Strings, I'm like, man, what does all of this fly into?
What do the trophies mean?
I don't have an answer. I literally don't have one this time.
You're tossing in the towel?
The only thing that's ringing a bell when it comes to like the Final Countdown, because I'm thinking of like, it sounds like something that would have been like an end game, like this is your trophy for beating the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that's like marginally coming into my head, I want to say it's GTA 5, because that's just like, like, because it's definitely a trophy that I've done, because I recognize Final Countdown from something. And I'm just trying to think of what game would possibly fit that. And I'm pretty sure they have that song in the game. Mm-hmm. So because of that, like that's literally all I have. I'm probably wrong, but I have nothing else to give. That's why I was giving the Saints Row vibe, because it sounds so similar. Because it's like it's the kind of games that I would figure from a game that's going to be like open world, like romping, right?
If I were to narrow it down for you, I'm going to narrow down some trophies. You're wrong, so like we'll give you the L, but I'll give you a chance to redeem. So the ones that I would point out: Flawless Groove, Million Point Club, Lord of the Strings, and Beat It.
Well, is it like Guitar Hero or something?
Something like that.
Okay, so then which one would it be?
I'll give you the full trophy list again.
Well, no, it's not gonna like there's like 10,000 Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. That's not fair. Okay. If I was to guess one, I would say like, what was even the newest one called? I don't even remember what the newest one was called. Okay, I'm Googling this specifically because I've already lost. Who cares?
Are you talking about like the new one, like
the one that I hated immediately because they took away the 5 buttons?
I think it's Rock Band World Tour.
No. No. It's Guitar Hero was the last one, because Rock Band 3 was like the last one there. What was the last Guitar Hero one they tried to do? Oh my god. It wasn't
just called Guitar Hero?
It wasn't on tour, because that was the DS one. Wikipedia, why are you terrible? Why aren't you helping?
Let me see if you can find it.
No, it's not that. Oh my god, I hate Wikipedia. How dare you waste my time with this? Oh my god.
Guitar Hero Live.
Guitar Hero Live?
Yeah, that. Oh wait, no, that's not it.
Oh my god. You trust Wikipedia to do something and it actually can't do it. Like usually they're like, here's the list of games in chronological order. They're not doing
Guitar
that.
Hero Live. It is Guitar Hero Live, the one that came out for PlayStation 4.
Oh, it is that one. Okay.
2015.
So like, what is the answer? Just so we can end my misery here.
It was. I would have just given anything. It was from the Rock Band series. It was Rock Band 2, but I would have just accepted any of the Rock Band games.
Oh, okay.
So the point that was like, I was just trying to get in a rhythm game. I would have even accepted Guitar Hero, but the one that kind of did it for me was the Open Road, because if you remember,
yeah, like the like initial cutscene where you were going like on tour and you were on like the bus.
Yeah, Worldwide Sensation, that kind of stuff. That's what I was trying to get you to go.
That's how far removed I am though from those games that it wouldn't have come to my head.
Dude, I loved Rock Band.
I
Like
did
that,
too. I haven't played them since like, oh my god. I think the last time I have the drum kit still.
I
It's
still have
kind of
mine too.
it's sort of broken, but I have it.
They all are.
But like, I'm pretty sure I haven't used it in minimum 7 years.
Man, I remember like they were huge when we were in university.
You put me in front of a drum kit, I can't play
Yeah.
it. But
I
you put
love
me
the
on
drum kit.
Guitar Hero or Rock Band, I can play Metallica Expert, no problem.
My favorite song. What was your favorite, like your go-to song? Go-to song and instrument for either Rock Band or Guitar Hero?
Drums I always would go to just because like I can play guitar. I don't care about guitar nearly as much. So it always default to drums. This is going to be a way off-brand one because probably people haven't heard of this one, but there was a DLC one called Shockwave by a band called Black Tide. And that song specifically was so good at like really fast-paced snare, really good like heavy bass pedaling. That one got me like energized. Like if I'm talking like any of the bass ones, like anything with Iron Maiden would get me. Like that's always a guarantee. I'm trying to think what else of like the mainstays you would always see. Specifically Maiden, a little bit of Priest here and there. Like mostly a lot of like 80s 90s metal would be pretty good for that.
See, my go-to, if I had to pick one song and an instrument to play, I loved playing 9 Inch Nails, Hand That Feeds on drums. That was my go-to. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think because I'm so bad at drums for real. Anytime I get to play a really fast song on Expert and Rock Band, I'd be super stoked because then everybody be like, "Holy shit, you're good!" I'm like, "It's okay. It's only on this. Don't worry about it."
See, the problem was I was one of the few people who was willing to be vocals.
I would too.
Oh, I have a voice not even a mother can love. Like she has literally told me don't sing in front of people. But I was the only one who is egotistical enough to be like, I want to be the front man, and it's a bad time.
Man, that's another thing that I miss about 3 years of pandemic. I haven't been to a karaoke bar in forever.
Oh man, I've never been to a karaoke bar.
Yeah, we used to have one downtown where I live where it was like the Asian like karaoke places where you just rent the room out. And me and a bunch of friends, we would do that all the time. And that place closed down just before the pandemic. And it was so sad because very rarely with the specifically like usually like Chinese, Korean, or Japanese, they're always all over the place with what they are. It's rare that they have a lot of English stuff. It's rare they have a lot of like a lot of variety. That place had so much. So like we could go in there and we had plenty. Whereas like the last time, once that place closed down, we tried one place. We literally ran out of stuff within like the half hour of the hour we booked. Like there was nothing. Because it's generally not a thing that like a lot of Westerners will do. Like they'll go to the bars where, you know, you hear like the same 5 country songs on loop. But like you go to like these like actually like specifically rent a small room out with a bunch of people. That doesn't seem to be something the West does very often, which is kind of strange to me because white people love to scream songs out loud. So you think we'd be in on that, but no, apparently not.
I think the problem, like and having not gone to it, is that I don't know if I could convince 5 to 10 friends, hey, let's go rent a room so you can listen to me sing to you.
But if you could convince 10 different people to sing in the shower, they fucking would. 100%. So I think it's weird. Like we all love belting stuff out, but apparently very few of us want to do it in public.
Yeah, that's.
Whereas I have no shame.
I don't want to shower or sing in public, so that's why they're both done in the privacy of my shower.
I also don't have a terrible voice. I have a decent voice that just doesn't have a very, very big range. So I'm just very selective of what I have to sing. But I don't feel like I'm that bad, so I don't care.
Yeah.
You throw on some Bohemian Rhapsody, I'll have a good old time.
Oh, that's a bold statement to go with. That's a hard one to do.
Well, as long as I haven't sung anything for like half an hour and it drank a shit ton of water, I can do it.
Cool. We'll have to do it sometime. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been this week's episode of the Pixel Play podcast. If it's your first time listening to us, thank you so much for joining us. We hope it was good for you. It's certainly good for us. If you're one of our regulars, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you're not part of the Discord, why not? Join us down here. You've got the link tree right in the nice little description here that Adam has just recently made. So go there, join fellow fans like yourself and us as we talk about everything that's going on throughout the week. We talk about things that aren't included in this show. So we'd love to have you there. If you're not following us on Instagram or Twitter, also, once again, why the hell not? We'd love to have you there as well. You can find us there, PixelPlaycast. If you want to send your weekly trophy stumpers to try and stump Adam, send them over to us at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to see if you can stump them. If you want to throw one out to me, do that as well. We're happy to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking with us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.